This morning's session is a little bit about the story of GovCMS, some of the challenges and things that we've gone through over the last couple of years, some of our survival techniques. We're going to talk about some of the changes that have happened recently in GovCMS, and then we've got a little bit of a plea to the community to give us a hand to help us write the next chapter of our story. For those of you who don't know who we are, my name is Nathan Wall. I'm the head of the GovCMS team at the Department of Finance, and I'd like to introduce...
My name's Toby Bellwood. I'm the tech lead for GovCMS and generally responsible for everything that goes wrong. Fixing everything that goes wrong.
So the latest chapter of the GovCMS story is quite an interesting one. Over the last couple of years, we have seen government's use of Drupal evolve in quite a big way, and it's not purely a GovCMS thing. We've seen a huge growth in the GovCMS community and the amount of activity, sharing and collaboration that we're seeing between our agency customers and also government agencies that are not using GovCMS at this stage. Just recently, we have delivered a new open source hosting platform, including a fairly significant migration of the sites that were on our older platform. You'll hear a little bit more about that today, and there's also a session tomorrow afternoon if you want to get down into some of the technical details the guys responsible for that are going to share. We've also added Drupal 8 to our fully managed SaaS service. So up until recently, if you wanted the SaaS platform, you had to use Drupal 7, but now we're ready for Drupal 8. GovCMS itself is now nearly 4 years old. We have had all sorts of challenges, but the ethos and the approach that we take can actually be applied to other projects too. So hopefully you'll take some of that away with you today. We operate on a basis of principles. So some of the principles for our community are fairly straightforward. You must not break somebody else's site. We promote sharing. You really need to be sharing if you're part of that GovCMS community. We've made a decision that GovCMS is going to be an open platform. It's really important for us as we grow and add more functionality. And also that GovCMS is going to give back to Drupal. We're 4 years down the track. We probably haven't given back as much as we could have. It's time to change that. Essentially, when we got started, it was pretty much like doing a government startup. We really didn't know what we were in for. We had a bit of an idea, but weren't quite sure where this was going to lead. We still had an actual business case, though. There was a clear user need. There was hundreds of different content management systems in use around government, just in Canberra alone. We had a business priority, so the Department of Finance had to replace an old platform that we were using to host some of our existing sites. And to make sure that we were heading in the right direction, we actually did a feasibility study, and that came back with some very positive results. So again, we thought we had a pretty good idea. We knew we had to be bold. We knew that we were only going to drive this ourselves because no one else was thinking the way that we were at this point in time. So we were responsible for our own story. So it was a dark and stormy night. That's how all stories start, isn't it? Well, we decided that we're going to change the story. We're not going to follow what other people did. And it's important when you're faced with these kinds of challenges that you don't say things like, we can't do this, or we'll never get approval for that. You really should be asking, how could we do this? What would be the challenge if we did this? Talking to a lot of our agency colleagues, they often tell us that they think there's these big restrictions in place. We'll never be able to get this approved, we'll never be able to do it. But when you challenge those restrictions, you often find that they're actually kind of artificial. Maybe you just haven't explained the challenge in a way that your managers understand.
It's a little bit of answering the problem as opposed to the question you're actually being asked. We find a lot of people will come to us with requests that they think they need, and we can pivot that quite nicely around to what they actually do need.
Yeah. We knew we had the right starting point. We had gone through a process to evaluate what CMS tools we wanted to use, and Drupal came out on top. We also chose the team at Acquia to help us get our platform up and running. They had a set of tools that were ready for us to use, so we actually started using their cloud site factory. I just want to pause for a moment and say that GovCMS today would not be where we are, and we would not have delivered what we've delivered without that early involvement from the team at Acquia. We've had the privilege to work with some incredibly talented people over the last couple of years. We've been able to leverage that and build on that. The second thing you really need to be conscious of is things are going to change, so you've got to be open to that. We've had lots of growing pains, but we've tried to be resilient, and we've had to deal with some squirrels. We've had 60% growth each year, and that doesn't appear to be going away right now. The growth is pretty much consistent. It's tidal wave of agencies are starting to form again, interested in the new platform, the things that they can do now that we're on GovCMS 2.0. Over the last couple of years, we've seen the types of sites that we're hosting change quite dramatically. When we first started, it was kind of simpler, almost, dare I say, brochureware websites. That's not the case anymore. We've got some really sophisticated sites, beautiful designs, full screen, rich video, and very, very high traffic in some cases. Now, this has stretched our capabilities a little bit over the time. But we were absolutely certain that whatever we did, it was not going to put our security accreditation at risk. So from time to time, that actually creates some further constraints for us. Resilience. This is something you've got to work on. Technical resilience itself is actually pretty straightforward. There's a whole range of off-the-shelf tools. You can do things like platform hardening. We always do a routine set of tests throughout the year for things like load testing, penetration testing, etc. Team resilience, though, is something that takes a little bit more effort. We used to manage work using an account management model. So my team, various people, were responsible for an agency's end-to-end experience with GovCMS. And that meant they needed to be a specialist across that entire journey. They had to know a full range of topics, they had to know all the tasks, and they had to have knowledge in all sorts of different areas. Now, most people can't actually work that way. So we decided we were going to do some changes to the team, and now they're specialising in different stages of the workflow. My team is pretty small. We've got changing budgets, and that also presents some challenges. We think this new model is working a little bit better for us, but we've noticed there's still an overlap in some of the skills that are needed. And then you get squirrels. You think you know what you're doing when you get to work on any given day. Yep, sometimes that changes, and it changes very quickly. It's days like this that you need to work through the issues with your teams. You need to give them that safety zone to say, I actually don't know how to deal with this. And you give them the permission to come up with new ideas to deal with these problems. As a manager, sometimes you need to raise up the shields, give them the time to actually figure out what their options are going to be. As a manager, sometimes you need to know when to step in and then when to step aside and let the team just get on with it. If there aren't times when you're asking yourself, oh my goodness, how on earth are we going to do this? Maybe it's time to go and seek out some new challenges, because personally I'd find that pretty boring.
One of the most important things for us is making sure the people that are building these GovCMS sites that are getting bigger, getting more complex, getting more involved are happy. One of the largest things we heard over certainly the last 18 months was the developer experience is something that was a major sticking point. I know a number of agencies did a lot of work around it. Props to the team from the Department of Health for building the Vagrant SaaS tooling that just provided that little bit of better workflow. One of the things that Site Factory. Site Factory is a great tool. Site Factory is a massively powerful platform, but it's really hard to build a local copy of Site Factory. And by really hard, I mean virtually impossible. And that was a bit of an issue. A nod to anyone who's had to go through the forklift process. I'm sorry. We'll try and get rid of it. But the disconnect between what you could build locally and what you could build on platform, it existed, and it was quite a wide gulf. The whole GovCMS one site, one size fits all thing worked when we were a smaller, more brochure-wary site. But as Nathan said, we've got some big sites. We've got some sites that I think our record is almost 1.5 million page views on a site on a single day. And that's fairly heavy hitting for government. We can do that because of the steps we've taken up to this point, but that's a slightly different dynamic to a site that's got heavy search, to a site that's got serious front-end involvement, to a site that's got, in the last year, and you'll hear some of these case studies over the next couple of days, information being pushed out to mobile apps. You've got sites that are rapidly adjusting displays of content based on your preferences. And I was at Drupal South this time, I'm going to say this time last year, even though it wasn't quite this time, in Auckland. And there were so many talks about DevOps and containers and Docker and containers and DevOps that we smelt there was something in the air. We felt we could build some of our learning around this space. Because, to underline it all, building a GovCMS site was too hard. There are some great GovCMS sites out there. They're all great, sorry. All GovCMS sites are great. Don't want to offend anyone. But it was hard. It was hard to do, and it was something that, up until recently, was the domain of a few specialist agencies. There was, my favourite story, and I don't know if they're here today, but there was an agency who got a first-time GovCMS supplier to build a site for them, and when we got to the forklift process, we found there was 29 modules in that site that weren't in the GovCMS distribution. Absolute horror. This was 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Full credit to the developers. They had a site on our desk at lunchtime the next day with all of those modules removed, the site fixed, restored, in its right place. That kind of disconnect, it was really hard for first-timers to get around. So we want to work more closely with developers. Obviously, we've got the Drupal suppliers panel. Over the last year, we've seen a lot of traffic and a lot of business go through that. I like to think we've built closer relationships with a lot of Drupal vendors out there. We're trying to provide a more direct access model. Anybody that knows me knows that email is not the way to find me. Find me on one of the 15 other social media platforms out there and just harass me until I answer your question. And if then that doesn't work, find where I live and just stalk me on my drive to work. Don't joke. Focusing on continuous improvement. We're at a place where we want to continue to get better. We want to continue to improve. We want to build this thing rolling and going forwards. Our strong partnerships with service providers. Nathan mentioned the strong relationship with Acquia over the last few years. We would not be here without Acquia, and that is absolutely the truth. Our agencies wouldn't be as comfortable and competent. It looks like I've timed that really badly, just as Mark and Christy walked in the room. But it's thanks to you guys. Like, you guys have been the outward face of what we've done for so many of our agencies over the last 3 or 4 years. And that has helped grow Drupal and helped grow GovCMS. We're looking to continue that with Salsa and with Amazy. We think it's got off to a great start. We speak the same language. We all talk in the same ways about what our visions and what our aims are, and we've all got the same attitude towards delivering that. So we're really looking to practice what we preach. We don't build websites. We don't build websites. We help people build websites. We help build platforms for people to build websites. But a lot of the learnings are still true. A lot of what we're doing at the macro level is still applicable at the micro level. We still want to encourage people to follow the same sort of path. Be bold, be agile, be nimble. Think about what you're doing. Think about, and the thing that we're going to say the most is minimum viable product. We see so many websites are built to completion and then launched, and the vendor's got a 30-day warranty period, and that's it. You walk away. what we're seeing more and more of is websites that are being launched, that are being put out into the public at that 80% mark. And the 80% mark is great because it gives you the chance to be able to iterate and move forwards. So that sort of moves into how we're looking to build GovCMS going forwards. Minimum viable service seems, don't read it literally. Minimum viable product service. There's a lot of things that we did know with Acquia and with Site Factory. There's a lot of things we didn't know. Not knowing is okay. Not knowing the answer, not knowing how to do something, but being able to approach it from an angle where you can say, I want to find out the answer. I need to find out the answer for this. We've entered a period of great uncertainty. We've migrated 102 or 108 sites, depending on who you're talking to, across to Lagoon. That's huge. They've been running up there for a week, and I think so far we've only done a whole platform redeployment 5 times. We had these lofty ambitions of like sightseeing and going out for dinner and stuff like that, but pretty much Tom and Michael have been deploying platforms almost every night for the last week. We knew that would happen. I think we underestimated the scale of it, but not knowing, it's okay. The sites are live, the sites are running, we've still got some work to do, but we have delivered it. We made it happen. As I was leaving the office on, I think 9:30 on Saturday night with Michael, we got in the lift and I said, I was really worried we'd be getting in the lift and we'd have done 25 sites by this point. We'd migrated 70 sites by 9 p.m. on Saturday. That was enormously comforting for me because it meant the end was in sight. It's enormously comforting for us because it meant that the process we'd built was working and it was correct and it was happening and it was real. It meant Sunday was a little bit more relaxed. We're still there till 6, but leading back to the start of this process, we'll talk a little bit about the process we've went through. And I know I've stood up in front of people and said the first rule of government procurement is that you don't talk about government procurement. But what we can talk a little bit about is why we did what we did, how we did what we did, and what we were looking to get out of it and where we think we landed.
Okay, so yes, Toby will say quite frequently, government procurement is not his thing. It can be hard. There are rules and processes that are in place for government procurement, but you can actually use these to your advantage. So when we approached this exercise, and we've been at it now for about a year, we made sure that we involved our community all the way through. And that was not just our agency users that were already signed up to GovCMS. It was the industry, developers, digital shops, agencies that weren't customers of GovCMS. We started by issuing an exposure draft of what we thought our requirements were going to be. We got feedback and we incorporated that into what we were doing. We decided, rather than doing a request for tender, which comes with very specific requirements in terms of the evaluation, we would do a request for proposals. And that gives you a whole lot more freedom about how you actually approach the evaluation. We built in a collaborative process, and that enabled a number of the suppliers who potentially had a great service offering for us to look at to be much more collaborative, not only with ourselves, but with a couple of our agency customers to figure out actually what was going to be the best solution for us. And it's a really good time to sort of remind people that iteration doesn't mean incremental change. Our new platform is not a like-for-like replacement of what we've had previously. There is still a lot to do, but in many ways there'll be things that were done or processes that existed on GovCMS 1.0 that won't actually be around in GovCMS 2.0 because we've learned and adapted. Our challenge now is to continue this evolution as a partnership. The hosting platform, it's completely open source, and that means we actually have the ability to change the platform as well as enhance the capabilities and functionality of Drupal.
Which we have done a few times already.
Yeah, just a few. As government, if we want to maximize the benefits of open source, we actually have to increase the amount of give back that we're doing, and not just at the platform level. Many of the enhancements that we can make will benefit other users of Drupal generally. There's already initiatives happening around the world in the Drupal space that are being looked at by other users, and we've got an opportunity to actually tap into that and contribute. If we don't step up and start collaborating more in that space, our ability to influence the future of Drupal is going to be somewhat reduced, and that's going to be bad for us. We also have to recognise that we, finance, GovCMS, we can't do it alone. The GovCMS community has already made a huge contribution to GovCMS 2.0. We've crowdsourced hints, tips, documentation, training materials. I want to do more of that. I want to collect from agencies stories about their projects, the innovations that they've done, through to actually getting more customers helping us with documentation and training materials. You can actually help us make the materials that you need and are of benefit to your users. If you have ideas on how you could actually allocate some time in the near future, come and see us over the next couple of days.
I'm not going to sing it. I think we acknowledge Acquia, and we talk about give back to Drupal. It's also important to note where we came from. I mean, GovCMS came from AGov. We've moved and we've done some of our own stuff in there, but what we're really looking to do is help move that forward and help solidify some of the work that we've done to help other people learn from us and move from us. One of the biggest things is the choice of platform. This choice of platform for us was crucial. I talked about DevOps and DevOps all the things. Going to market was a great opportunity for us to see what people thought we should be doing. The proposal to put Drupal on top of Lagoon, on top of OpenShift, and on top of AWS, it seems to meet all of those goals, all of those objectives, giving us the ability to react and adapt, helping shape that little bit of future that we want to carve out. Being able to properly scale. I've often said that government websites think that they have high traffic until they actually do get high traffic, and normally that's negative when someone says something silly or something happens and you get this sort of massive rush. We're asked many times for a metaphorical red button that an agency, are we going to announce this thing tomorrow? There's going to be a huge influx to the site. We want you to turn all the dials up to the max. 95% of the time, we'll tell people we've turned the dials, knowing that what they're talking about is well within the limits of what we've currently spec'd. But we've had those occasions in the last couple of years where we've actually needed it. We've needed to build sites that could go up to 1.5 million page views a day. Being able to get that scale at an individual level to be able to serve our clients better. Last week, one of our agencies had their busiest week of the year. They get more traffic in this week in November than they do in the first 6 months of the year. The way we operate, the models we've built have had to change because of that. The platform we offer has to change because of that. There's going to be more of those. There's going to be more of those things around the corner. What we want is the metrics so that we can underpin these, so we can work out how is this going, how's this tracking. We can sort of track things like actual compute usage versus storage. We can track like page views. Page views are a government currency because we all have Google Analytics. Page views are almost the worst way of tracking a website. But in the hands of Joe Public Servant, page views are actually quite a useful tool to say we're 3 times as busy as we were yesterday. Your site's actually really well built. You're 98% offloading to cache, so 3 times the page views, 15 times the page views, it doesn't really matter. But that matters to our customers, so we've got to be able to translate that. A couple of the other things that we're really looking to position ourselves in terms of this, where we are going forwards, is when we talk about give back, it's something that's really important for me personally. I'm an open data person, I'm an open source person. I think we hold a real position of power inside the Drupal community that I don't think we've used. I don't think we've used it well enough. There aren't many people out there doing kind of things at the scale we're doing and helping Drupal from that point of view. We have a large user group that's primarily non-Drupal developers. We've got a lot of content admins, a lot of content authors, a lot of site builders. How do we help shepherd them through Drupal and get them comfortable and familiar with Drupal? At the same time as providing tools for people that want more Drupal-y stuff to do. And that's kind of the balance we've had to strike over the last year and try and work out what's important. Nathan said that Drupal 8's now available in GovCMS. Last week was the time we were supposed to be putting the finishing touches on it and not putting out mini fires all over the place, but that's all right. It's still in a fairly good position. We've got a handful of sites starting to build Drupal 8 GovCMS SaaS sites now. One of the things that we're most proud of and what we think we've got to offer in this space is configuration management for Drupal 8. We've put what we think is a nice workflow around config management that will help to get some of the, we think if we can help in this space, we can help share some of this back. This is all obviously publicly available, but trying to get the mentality out from an individual website as a single atomic entity at one point in time to being able to consistently evolve. It's still in its infancy, so we're not going to talk too much about it, but expect to hear more from us over the next sort of 3, 6, 9, 12 months about the way we're looking at configuration management as something that everyday users can deal with and can handle rather than it being the domain of someone who's a serious Drupal developer. There's also a couple more talks over the next couple of days about making life easier for building a website, for styling a website, for content editing. We're about trying to make this easier for people. There's going to be people who do complex, who do difficult, who do really out there Drupal sites in government. There's a large swathe of the public who just want to be able to build a good, solid, reliable website easily that they know that they can support themselves, or if they can't support it, they can find someone quickly who can. I did a recruitment many years ago for a competing content management system provider, and of the 5 people that applied for my job, 3 of them already worked in the team. That's how hard it was to find people with that skill. What we're seeing is more and more Drupal jobs out there, more and more roles. So we think the more skills we can put in more people's hands, the bigger Drupal can get. And that's going to be part of our give back. What's going to be crucial around this is how we build a technical roadmap for GovCMS. We don't build the sites. I'll say that enough, mainly because you never want to see a Drupal website that I've built. But building this technical roadmap for us is really important. We help corral not just government, but also work with the Drupal supplier community, with the agency community, and work with the broader Drupal community. We've had some very productive conversations so far with the Drupal Association about how we can help to get involved in that space. We've looked at a few targets. We had a session at the Mega Meetup back in November where I basically opened up a Word document and people yelled things at me that they wanted me to do, and then moved around the room and yelled them again to make sure that I actually wrote them down. We're looking at bringing those together. We'll start to put some groups together. What we can do in the best position is start to bring the relevant people into the same place to work on these things. So we can prioritize these targets. We can start to look at, well, what is of most benefit? What is of most use? Remembering again that a lot of the output of this is to make users, to put users in more charge, to give them more control. Some of the things that we've come up with or that we've heard around the trap, document and media management. It's one of the most requested things. How do I see all the files on my server? It's a good point. We want to know what the content of our website is, could be, should be. How do we delete the old stuff? We need to have a good solution for that. Obviously, there's enhancement work around the front end. There's the starter themes. There's more advanced themes. We can go into decoupled and start to sort of walk down that area. Editor workflows. One of the most crucial things for government is scheduled publishing, and one of the most unresolved things in Drupal 8 at the moment is scheduled publishing. So we've got a real opportunity to help pull together in this space and work out exactly what the best way of doing it is. And if it means that someone else, if there's a tool out there that fits the bill, let's connect and let's work out how we can help do this. We've got 2 partners in Amazing and Salsa who've got massive resources of talent and skill. Let's see if we can put this together and really get a good solution to that. Integrations with other platforms. The GovTeams platform is a good example. Web forms, being able to collect more secure information through a web form is something that comes up quite a lot. And we've got this mythical SaaS Plus thing down the bottom that you may have heard us talk about from time to time. SaaS Plus is a concept that we can do using the power of Docker. We're maintaining upstream images for GovCMS, and we're maintaining upstream images customizing GovCMS for use on the Lagoon platform. Past customers want the flexibility to be able to add their own modules. They really need an integration with Salesforce. They really need a mega menu that no one else seems to like or want. Or they want to build a custom module to do something super specific and particular. If that's all they need, and if that's all they want, having to force them over to a completely different product on the SaaS platform, on the PaaS platform, seems a little harsh. You lose a lot of the comfort and the security of SaaS Plus, SaaS. SaaS comes with sort of the management, the support, and the hosting, and the protection. What if there was a way of having basically a GovCMS site with a little bit extra, 1 module, 2 modules, a library, a couple of features? This is something that we're really actively exploring because it will help bridge the divide between the 2 previously very separate products and very separate pathways. If we can help someone customizing GovCMS on the platform, that's going to be a win because we'll be able to better provide our resources and our knowledge in the form of updates to the upstream images. The agency and their partners will be able to provide their knowledge in the terms of the customization and inject those basically on top of our images. There'll still be responsibilities. You'll still have PaaS-like responsibilities. We're not going to automatically deploy your sites for you, but we'll make it easier for you to be able to do so. So that's some of the stuff that we're looking at. We're really interested in getting agencies together on this, getting people thinking in the same space. So going forward, what we'd like people to do, current GovCMS customers, future GovCMS customers, GovCMS non-customers who just want to complain about what we're doing, we'll take that as well. You have to put your email against it so we know who you are. But think about what functions or functionality, features or functionality would benefit you the most, either in your current workflows, your future workflows, what you think might be around the corner. If we're planning for around the corner, you've got a better idea than we do of what might be around the corner. What's the one thing you would change about GovCMS? We're here, we're open, we want to listen. We've asked for a lot of help from people in the past, and we've had a lot. Our agencies are crucial in providing knowledge, know-how, skills. We want to be able to action that. We'll apologize for the last 7 or so months. We've been a little sidetracked. The next 12, 24, 36 months, we've got a real opportunity to take this forward. So come and find us. Come and dig us out. There's a booth, there's a lolly guessing game, and there's some really fantastic free pens. Genuinely, the pens are really, really good. But come and talk to us. Come and grab Nathan, myself, any of the Salsa or Amazing teams and ask about what's going on. We'll be at the Code Sprint on Friday. Wednesday. That is how out of it I am. We'll be at the Code Sprint until Friday. We'll be at the Code Sprint on Wednesday. I put a call out to the community and said, if you need us to try and fix anything with your site, with your process, answer a question, come grab us. We'll also be trying to start some of that give back process, some of that. We know it'll be gradual, it'll be slow. If it's as simple as me commenting on a core patch that we're using this in core across 100, across 200 sites, that's a start. That's a really good input. We want to be down the track where we're submitting those patches, where we're reviewing. We want to be at the stage where we are featuring on the top 400, 500 contributors to Drupal. Last year, we got an issue credited to us, so that's one more than we got the year before. This year, I think we're on track for 2 so far, so small goals, aim low, achieve early, but we want to set our goals really high. So, quick wrap up, sharing. We're about sharing. Us sharing with you, you sharing with us all sharing with everyone. We've got a GovCMS community, we've got a discourse forum, we've got a Slack channel, we've got a GovTeams channel. We're in the process of refining those, trying to work out what goes where, who goes how, but join, be part, throw us your input. If you think we should be doing something better, tell us. If you think we can do something better by doing X, tell us. If you think you can do Y to help us do X better, let us know and we'll work out how we can do that. The new platform, it's evolving. It really is. Anybody that's been using GovCMS SaaS site in the last week will have seen some changes start to dribble in. User interface is probably the primary area where we've made the most, where we're doing the most work at the moment. It's come a long way in the last couple of weeks, and it will continue to go that way. That relies on you telling us that this worked, this didn't work. Did you know this? Have you seen that? GovCMS 8, for us, we're trying to be fairly minimal with GovCMS 8. We've made quite a few platform decisions that are squarely aimed at the new starter and trying to get people onboarded easily on the principle that if you know how to remove the custom stuff from our profile, you're probably the right person to be removing custom stuff from our profile. If you don't know how to remove it, you probably shouldn't be. We've had to make a few changes in there to the way we've done some of the modules and some of the dependencies, but that's coming together. If you think there's something out there that we really need to be on top of, let us know. I'll say it a third time, we don't build websites. So we're not building at the volume that certainly Drupal suppliers are. We're not maintaining at the level that agencies are. This is where your input's massively important to us. So we can wrap up there. We can take a few minutes of questions. I think there's a bit of fat.
3 minutes for questions.